Artists are in crisis. Now, that's a bold claim, and I'm going to attempt to explain what I mean. Art is not dead. It is not dying. We live in an era of beautiful art, and I fully believe that as long as humans exist, there will be beautiful art. It's just that there are a lot of big problems affecting lots of artists. These problems are killing artists' inspiration and making it so less art happens. That sucks. People only live once. If you have an art idea and you don't make it, it will never happen. These problems that are plaguing artists are ones that kill art ideas. They have already killed millions of art ideas, which could have led to thousands or perhaps millions of enriching, beautiful pieces of art. Today, I would like to expose those problems to hopefully defend myself and other artists against them. However, most of these far exceed being able to change by one person alone or one video alone, so it's just the first step. I'd like to take that first step anyways, and I hope you come along for the ride. Another intro note, I would like to say that when I'm talking about art and artists, I'm talking about myself as well. I view this as art. This is talking about art in a broad sense, and so naturally, these issues are going to be really broad. So in my last video, I had a little note about how irony culture is killing passion and sincerity and seriousness. This is an issue that I am becoming increasingly aware of and mad at. Not only does this mentality hurt people who want to create art, it is also hurting the ironic ones. The irony that I'm speaking of, by the way, is not just like silly little fun stuff. I'm ironic all the time, don't get me wrong. And I think irony and satire have its place in a variety of mediums. This irony that I'm speaking of is one that cringes or mocks at passion and sincerity. Why is it that when people start making art, their first instinct is to either not share it at all or to put it anonymously on the internet? To me, creating and sharing art is one of the most important things the human species does. It should happen outside of just the internet. I think this is due to ironic culture and the idea of looking too sincere. It's not just that people think their art is bad. Feedback is necessary and people know this. But when you're sharing bad art, it's not really like you're worried about sharing bad art. It's you're worried about what people are going to think of you. And like I said, irony can be in good fun. But the problem comes in when people start to see your stuff and they inevitably judge you. Not the art, they judge you. When you are critiquing someone, please try to critique the actual art and not go straight for the "you care too much" card. We need to be able to criticize and tell people their art is bad or lacking in some way, but we don't need to crush the passion of people trying to do something beautiful. This jump from talking about the piece to talking about how the artist cared about the piece is such a terrible jump, and it happens way too often. It's normally okay to attack a piece of art, but the second you start saying that the quality of the art means something about the artist, then you've gone too far. Now, if you're discussing the ethics of art, it's a little bit of a different story. If somebody made art glorifying and promoting genocide or something like that, obviously you can start judging the artist. I'm strictly talking about quality unrelated to morality here. I've had a few personal experiences of this sort of thing, not in such a direct way where somebody's actually told me that I'm caring too much, but I will still share. For me, this channel is probably one of the things in my life that I am most proud of. Even if I know how bad some of the videos are and I critique myself harder than anyone else, I am still in love with this. This is still the only place where I truly feel artistic and the most like myself. Now, obviously, I have like 75 subscribers and I've never posted anything that's reached 1,000 views. Does this mean my art is worth less? Does this mean I care too much? Because it's not even being seen. I think a lot of people would say I'm way too in my head about how important this is. And yet, I think those people are fundamentally misunderstanding art and are just crushing passion for no reason. I know that if I'm around ironic people, I will be scared to make stuff. The passion will actually be crushed. I'm not just thinking that this would happen. This does happen. This happens so much to the extent that I would blame part of why I haven't posted that much this year on that. And I feel like half the time when I do share art with people in my life, I'll say stuff like, "Oh yeah, I have a new video coming out, but it's kind of bad." But I know that. I'll say this praying they'll still watch the video, but whenever I get dramatic or pretentious on them, they'll just remember I thought the video was bad. This kills creativity. This kills love. Art is beautiful, but it's not some special thing that only rich, sophisticated people can understand and achieve. You should be able to participate in art without having a killer voice or a crazy understanding of color, you know? Because like drawing and singing and dancing and writing are just part of the human experience, and you should be able to do that because it's good for your health. The ironic culture gatekeeps art. How could you want to sing or dance? You're bad at it. You either need to be doing it fully ironically or be really good. Like, no, just let me sing along to my favorite song or Better Call Saul at it. Of course, singing along to lyrics isn't really art. It's just better art participation. But for people who write for fun or draw every once in a while, they shouldn't be judged for caring about their stuff. I also don't think that just because anybody should be able to make art that we should abandon our ideas of quality just for hobbyists and casual artists to feel like their stuff is amazing. I just think we should stop judging hobbyists and casual artists in the first place. If we do that, maybe they'll make more art, and therefore the art will be better. And maybe they'll even stop being hobbyists or casual artists. Either way, breaking down barriers will only cause better art. It's so sad to see people actually think that someone cares too much. And I realize that it often comes down to ignorance or lack of understanding. And it's important to sympathize with the other side. Irony can be a part of culture. It can be used as a defense mechanism. And there's peer pressure to be ironic. I think the ironic people are actually losing out a lot here. They aren't experiencing the joys, wonders, and artistic highs of life. These people will often not watch or experience stuff from smaller artists, and they'll interact less meaningfully with the art they do like. At least if you get deterred from making art, you can always come back and pick it up later. But if you're ironic, you have to completely change your views on things. All of this sucks, but I do believe there's some meaningful change. The best and most hyped TV shows, especially comedies, have been overwhelmingly sincere, in recent years specifically. They are able to be ironic and make fun of caricatures because they've earned it. They don't just give you a reference and say the world's all bad. They say something beautiful and true. They communicate sincerity. Dude, uncomfy right now. I'm uncomfy. I also see this on YouTube with YouTube New Wave, the people who are trying to forget about algorithms, optimizations, and Mr. Beastifications, but focus on telling really good stories. Another thing I see is just with Gen Z. I feel like a bigger sector of this generation cares about sincerity, and hey, we're way better than millennials. There is hope for the scorn of ironic culture to be beaten out by people who are passionate and sincere. So I'm not an economist or someone with really strong economic beliefs, but I will say that capitalism sucks the life out of artists on a regular basis. The first thing people think of when someone says artist is often the starving artist, the idea that art is difficult financially. And even though I'm about to talk about a million reasons why capitalism and business and corporations often will make life very hard for artists and kind of remove a lot of the core concepts of art as a whole, I do have to say there is some good aspects. It can be very satisfying, and I hope to reunify the idea of business and art within my own life. And I think a lot of other artists should too. The idea of someone not just wanting to experience their art, but pay for it, or pay for you to make more of it, with money they worked for, is just such an awesome idea. This system does not work all the time. It doesn't even work close to enough of the time. But when it does work, it's quite amazing. Now back to the normal video essayist-matic capitalism vibe. First of all, money, and to a larger extent numbers, cannot even come close to defining quality or beauty. What's great about grades and reviews are they are ways to interpret quality. You can understand what I feel about something when I say Better Call Saul is a 10 out of 10. Of course, quality is not actually that number, it's something much greater. But capitalism ultimately deals in terms of interpretations of quality. Sure, sometimes the highest quality work is also great at making the big bucks, but there are millions of times where it's not. Alright, let's begin complaining in more specific ways. I'm here to talk about Mr. Beast's best friend and my greatest enemy, the YouTube algorithm. When you ask what makes a good video, the difference between what I say and what the YouTube algorithm says makes our values become obvious. I would say a good video is emotionally moving, or beautiful, or something that made me smarter, or something that genuinely improved my day and brought me some amount of fulfillment, or made me laugh, or something like that. Now YouTube would say a good video is something that keeps you on the platform, and preferably slides right into the next video to keep you on the platform. That's it, watch time. Numbers. Now this makes sense from a business perspective. You can't really measure a fulfillment or beauty, so you can't really promise to deliver that to people. And even if it could, it would make less money. So no. However, this doesn't stop me from being pissed. I wish there were at least options to watch videos from a variance of algorithmic optimization. Like I said in part 1, at least now we have people making longer and longer stuff, and also people are watching on TVs more and more, so I think that people are viewing YouTube as a place that isn't just for quick hits of Mr. Beast and Erik. This just mostly sucks for the artists who make stuff, and YouTube isn't serving to the right audience, and I think that YouTube algorithm is actually pretty good at finding the right audience. It's just not quite there yet. Millions of artists post stuff to YouTube and it just doesn't get recognized, and that sucks. And there's also pressure to ruin the artistic integrity of your stuff. Slap a couple red arrows there, add a few quick edits here. Luckily, YouTube seems to be actively improving on this. Like I said, there's the YouTube New Wave, but there's also new Minecraft content and the longest video essays you've ever seen. There is still beautiful art that isn't getting picked up, but I do think this is happening less. So that was the most positive we're gonna get in this section, probably. But let's dive into a couple atrocities taking place in the film and game industries. So the first reason that movies have kind of sucked recently is because of capitalism's wanting to have a safe return on investment. Why make a movie with new characters, settings, and a plot? Just make 100 of the same 5 franchises, we'll be fine. Everything's a reboot, remake, or a sequel, or a prequel. This is all capitalism's fault, but it's also like not even necessary. Like Pixar used to not make sequels every single year, and it would still make tons of money. They just were focusing on quality, and people trusted their studio would make quality work. Capitalism and originality are not always at odds. But that's not the only thing that's bad. We also have Netflix and like 34 other streaming services. I do want to focus on Netflix though. Sure, its studios have made a bunch of beautiful work, but ultimately it clearly still comes down to money. This business is still a business. Inside Job is a show worth watching. Oh wait, it's kinda not. Cancellations are art sins. Ending a work not because it's finished, but because it's not making money is just so infuriating for the artists who don't get to finish what they started, and for the fans who don't actually get to see the entirety of an art. In the words of Jay Pritchett,
nobody keeps me on edge for 500 pages, then decides they're just done writing. Either end the damn story or don't even write it.
Netflix isn't the only company committing sins. Microsoft also has been dealing with some of this stuff. They recently closed down a bunch of studios. This to me reflects not just anti-worker, anti-artist, and capitalismness, but it also represents some poor business decisions. Now, I'm not a CEO or even someone super interested in business, but I do love art, and that gives me a perspective CEOs and stakeholders often don't. Maybe the reason you need to close your studios is because you're too focused on making games as a business fully. This goes not just for Microsoft, but almost the entirety of the industry. Some of the best games in terms of quality and in terms of sales are indie. For example, Minecraft started out indie, but you also got your Hollow Knights, your Stardew Valleys, your Hades, your Terrarias, your Lethal Companies, your Among Us's, and recently you got your Animal Wells. Now, what do most of these games do? They take risks and focus on beauty and good gameplay instead of trying to milk every dollar out of every person who plays them. And they're not trying to become another Fortnite or Valorant. If you stop trying to make this live service and bland first shooter garbage, then you might actually start to have more success. If you start focusing on the actual art of games. And by closing down studios, you are destroying tons of talent that could have made those beautiful games. Of course, there's still tons of great games from Microsoft and all the other studios in the industry. It's just hard to not see so much potential being wasted. The Netflix stuff is a little bit different because I'd argue that I still think the quality of the shows are good. If they were only canceling bad TV shows, we'd be fine. And I guess I can't argue as much if Netflix is doing bad as a business because I really don't know enough. I do believe that what they're doing is wrong, and that's about as far as I'll go. So back to another algorithm rant, but TikTok edition. I hate it. I'm going to be specifically talking about TikTok and music. Now, I don't know about you, but I've actually started listening to a lot of great music from TikTok and short form in general. Sometimes TikTok can actually make it possible to make it as a musician without needing a label or people supporting you and promoting you. Of course, there was ways to do it before, but this is much easier. My problem comes in the way that music is often presented on TikTok. It feels gross. The idea of not just needing to be a musician, but be a musician who's able to make an engaging TikTok about your music, it's just so annoying. Not only do you have to make an engaging TikTok, but you also have to be willing to do that. To me, this sounds like selling my soul to the devil. I'm against almost everything TikTok Reels and Shorts stand for. If I was a musician, I'd rather burn my house down than make my song TikTokable. If I went through the trouble of making something beautiful, then the last thing I'd want to do is shorten it, dumb it down, and make some relatable caption just so it's more easy to listen to. Is it better than not having any audience? Probably, but that's like a really low bar. Of course, not all TikTok music sounds like TikTok music, so there's still quality on there. It's just, I don't know, man. Making music purposefully for TikTok sounds like an artistic hell. That isn't to say that capitalism kills all beauty. I've actually listed quite a few examples of capitalism rewarding beautiful things. To me, this says no matter what system or government, there will always be people focused on like making another $1 billion instead of actually trying to make artists make beautiful things. And like I said, these companies that are causing all of these problems are not the entirety of capitalism. It is important to try and make it work even if it's not an ideal system. Man, you probably feel bad for artists on like a monetary scale or something. Maybe you could ease that guilt by subbing to my Patreon? In all seriousness, I would greatly appreciate any support, even if it's just a free option. I have some extra stuff on there, and so if I really just want to foster a community on there eventually, and I think you could join in early. Speaking of community, so I'm lonely. That's basically what this part boils down to. Now, I don't mean it in the normal way. I have tons of great family and friends. I actually consider myself really lucky with the people I have in my life. There is a lack of one kind, however. In terms of people connecting with me through art, there is almost no one. It's not like I don't know people with creative endeavors or people who are just full-on artists. Is that I never really connect with them through that. I want to be in an artistic community. I want to connect with people through my work and through their work. So this whole thing was brought to light to me by Dreg. So I'm going to sound really similar to him, just like I sound similar to CJ the X and everything else I say. I think artists are not doing so hot when it comes to community. There's this idea of the lone wolf chiseling away for years on their magnum opus in solitude. I think this idea is not only quite unrealistic, it's extremely unhelpful. Artists already go through dozens of hoops just to get started on their work. But then this idea of locking yourself away makes your art not even feel real. How are you supposed to accomplish anything?
Community isn't optional. It's not something that's nice to have. It is absolutely essential that you have. If you are making art and you don't know anybody that enjoys your art, or if you are consuming art and you don't know anybody whose art you are consuming, if you don't have any mentors or any kind of guidance or map for how to succeed at what you are doing, you can still succeed. You're just playing it on hard mode for some reason. You toggled it to hard without even knowing.
This idea strikes me as a perfectionistic one. The idea that not only do you have to make your art perfect, but you also have to make it perfect alone. If you're fine with doing that and you're genuinely content doing it on your own, then that's fine. This isn't for you. But make sure you are actually content and not just killing yourself because you're trying to achieve some antisocial vibe. It's so sad and pointless. The way new art forms are often found is through the blending of two crafts from two different people. Things that are possible become possible when multiple people work on a project. Yeah. I also think it's refreshing to see in some art that is generally a one-man job. For example, the Burback channel by Eddie Burback and his brother Tony is really good. The video essays are only enhanced by the fact that there are two people. They're able to make comedy more efficiently, and they have a clear chemistry on screen. I don't understand not wanting to make art with other people necessarily. I don't have anyone touch my scripts or even look at the video until it's done. The most I do is send out a thumbnail. I don't make work with others. But that's also because no one's ever asked, which I guess is the exact thing I want people to ask. It's also key to say that a large part of this artistic community thing isn't even about making art together. It's also about sharing art for feedback, or just to be there when someone is creatively dry. It's also helpful to have somebody to keep you to your goals and to push you to make better art. It's about having people to work with. In conventional jobs, you have your coworkers who can understand you because they're in the same position. And millions of artists can understand each other, but they're just disconnected and aren't able to actually properly sympathize. They just feel alone when they could not feel alone. This is what I mean when I say I'm lonely. It's not that I'm lonely, it's that I don't have people sharing this journey with me. There's also a variety of relationships that can spur from communities like this. Mentorship is often overlooked, but it's played a key role in how I think about the world. I have my parents, of course, but I also have my pastor, a few old teachers, and tons of people online who have all guided me towards quality. This is needed more. I would love to meet a real person with real experience in YouTube video essays or something similar, but I'm not a part of a community with that. Rivalry can also bring out some fun elements in people and can push you harder, of course, only to a certain extent, healthily. There is a lack of this stuff, and it's so sad to see because so much artistic flourishing could take place through these relationships. Maybe I know what you're thinking. Why don't you just start a community or join one? I have a channel where I talk about art. Actually, now that I'm saying it out loud, this is like the first art video that I've truly made. But either way, I talk about it often. I could make a Discord. And I'm thinking about it, but I kind of have a couple hangups. I don't want it to be online. I know this is kind of unrealistic, but I want to meet with a variance of artists in real life. I would want to know the faces behind this imaginary community. Of course, I'd be fine with a group chat or a Discord, even if the majority of the art process, collaboration, and all that happens online. I would still be fine with it as long as I could meet these people. I just can't deal with another online community where we idealize meeting in real life, and I feel this barrier as to how much I can really get to know them. I'm extremely jealous of the little shindig that Dreg has going on in Toronto, to the point where I've daydreamed about moving there just for that. Now, that's obviously ridiculous, but it shows it's a real need that I have. I feel like not only am I losing out on some really good friendships and being able to help people and have them help me, but I'm missing out on potentially better art, feedback from artists, and an environment where people understand this deep chasm that's only filled by art. Even if it never happens, I dream of the IRL experiences that I could have in an artistic community. So I'm going to keep this short. This problem might be one that's most expected to pop up in a video like this, and it's kind of only here because I feel it's necessary to complete the piece in my heart. I think AI image generation is not art. It's not a replacement for it. It cannot be original. It cannot create beauty, at least in the sense that I care about it. It's fun. It's replaced artists who were taking commissions to make stuff like Obama with 3 legs, which, I mean, even though that's sad that they're losing a job, it's understandable. What isn't understandable is using AI to replace concept artists, or to use AI background music, or to use it in posts about being creative. Artists are about to lose jobs. Hell, a bunch already have. These companies, I think, will learn, at least some of them. It will become apparent that artists and writers are needed. I'm happy to see that the writer's strike successfully kept AI out of the writer's room. To me, AI art is just bland garbage that is technologically really cool, but quality-wise pretty bankrupt. AI is and will continue to make some jobs easier, even for artists. I just could never see a pure AI creation being considered art in my personal eyes. But of course, it can be used as a tool even if I'm never gonna use it. That's kind of it. I hate talking about AI art because I feel like only people online really get what I'm trying to say, and most people are so enamored by the tech, and I'm just thinking about the grand implications it has for the livelihood of artists. And I guess with other jobs too, I just don't really think about those as much, but that's on me. Yeah, these are pretty lofty problems. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't think this solved anything. It's just the first step. None of these things can be solved in a video like this, but I think the ironic one and the community one, you can at least take measures into your own hands and actively do stuff. I truly believe that. I really hope you guys enjoyed my first video truly about art. This is where the channel is headed in the future, talking about art and art in relation to philosophy and some online stuff like social media. If you enjoyed, sub to my Patreon. And also I write on Substack and stuff. I think I said that in the video. If you want to check out that extra stuff, it's fine. Cheers. I can't quite reach. You know what? I'm gonna cheers with the mic. I think that that's good enough. Wait, am I glued to this couch? What the?